All right, so here I am with Riot.
Hazard reported ahead.
And we are taking a little excursion today. You'll hear more about at a later date, later today. And for those who don't know, there was a show called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. It was with Seinfeld. He would pick people up in cool cars, ask them a bunch of questions. And so I thought today, since Riot is always the one who's asking people questions, camera in their face and likes to put them on the spot trying to get answers, I figured today, since I'm the passenger, I'll ask Riot some questions, and we'll call it like Moments with a Monster in a Car or something along that line. Still working out the title. So just go fire a few questions and we'll see what Riot says. So I know we know a lot of the history of mild monsters and everything, but obviously it has really grown a lot. It's kind of taken on a whole life of its own. So I guess my first question is more like, could you have foreseen anything like what you're doing now with mild monsters, or what was your original version in your mind of what mild monsters would be?
I kind of had hoped to bring on riders, and I wanted to have it maybe not what it is right what we have, but heading in that direction. It took on a life of its own, and it's growing in directions I could have never predicted or seen. But the vision that I had was, reaching out to other kids, helping a group of kids, and having people around the country helping out those kids. So that part of it is like a dream come true, and those things I did hope would happen, and it sure is nice to see them actually happening.
Yeah.
Where I'm 3,000 miles away from Turbo, but we got people out there hanging out with him and doing cool stuff, and 1,500 miles from Gavin, but somebody will be hanging out with him, and
yeah,
I can stop in and see a bunch of kids over with Drew. So that kind of stuff is coming to life, but I didn't predict it as it is, but I had hoped it would be kind of in that line. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's exciting to see all the different things that Mild Monsters are doing on their own and as part of the group. From our perspective as parents, I know all the parents really appreciate everything that's going on right now, and has been going on. So I guess with all the rides you do a ton of crazy different rides. You see all parts of the country. What would you say has been your most exciting ride to date?
My most exciting, my very first Hoka Hay was exciting because it was something new. I'd never competed, so that has a whole different level to it. But that was probably my most exciting, just because it was something new I hadn't done. And they're all exciting just in a different way, because they're all a little different. My 48 and 8 was a great, exciting time, hitting all 48 states in 8 days. So I just get a flood of things that come to my mind. And last year's Hoka Hay was very exciting because I put a lot of prep time into getting my body physically ready for the ride, and a lot of prep time in getting a new bike set up for the ride, and then I throw it into a pile of rocks, and I got to get it out and get it to the finish line. So it was very exciting, just took on a different level and different avenues that I could have never predicted, but it was pretty cool.
So with all these rides, and you just kind of mentioned it, besides the crash last year in the Hoka Hay, what would you say maybe besides that, what would be maybe one of your most difficult rides that you remember? Just a day that really sucked, or something crazy that happened that, you barely missed another accident?
Yeah, two things come to mind. One was Drew's Day in my race against time, the 48 states in 8 days. There was a Tuesday that we named Drew's Day, and that day I started out super cold in the desert. I was actually in Idaho, where I slept, and I got kicked out of my sleeping spot, and I didn't get any sleep, and I hit Nevada, and it was freezing cold, and I'd heated gear on, and I was just frozen. But then it rolled from that, and as I got going south, it got just incredibly hot. It went from 33 degrees to like 116 degrees. It was just insane. And that day I got dehydrated, ended up at, they wanted to put me in a hospital, but I wasn't about to have a hospital throw me back, so some guys got me hooked up with going to the fire department, and I got an IV there, and I got helped out there. So that was one that day was a little bit hairy, because I knew something was off. I could feel it, and I was riding, and I could feel myself like on the verge of passing out. So I was like, I knew I had to stop, and luckily I came to a gas station right then, and just went inside there and tried to get myself back together. But there was that time, and then in the first Hoka hay, I was around Utah. I think I was coming into Utah, and a friend of mine was riding with me, and an elk ran out, and it ran out, and then his pipe scared it, and it turned and ran right down the white line right at me. And I was so exhausted and so tired, I wasn't sure if I was seeing things, and it all happened in 2 seconds. But I went right by it and never even hit the brakes, never even flinched, nothing. 90 miles an hour, and almost took the antlers in my head. So,
And for people who don't know, I mean, elk are hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
yeah, they're
Like 4,600 pounds.
800.
Right? 800.
Yeah, they're 900 pounds. So they're a big animal. And so then I wasn't sure if I imagined it. I had been up for, I think, 41 hours at that point, and I wasn't sure if I imagined it. And then my friend was like, "Did you see that elk?" So I'm like, "It really was there." Those were a couple hairy ones. But I've had some hairy times, and usually the bike has got me out of it, or I've had a little bit of luck. I'll take luck any day of the week. So
Yeah.
I'd rather be lucky than good, and I've had my fair share of luck. I've had the bike make a corner I never thought it could make. So I don't know. I guess I got somebody watching out for me.
That's all right. And now going to the crash, and we were just talking a little bit earlier about this, like you don't remember everything that occurred during that time, or what hit where, what landed where, but do you remember like the moment where you knew that you were losing the bike, and what flashed through your mind or not?
Yeah, I remember it vividly, because it was like a high definition movie playing in my head for months after. It still does, and that's been since July 3rd. But I took a corner, and most people know I ride on the aggressive side, I guess would say the least, but I'm not reckless. I know my limits. I know what my bike can do. I ride a lot. I ride hard a lot, so I know what the bike can do. And I took that corner, and everything should have been fine, and in one split second it wasn't fine, and I didn't have time to think about I'm going down. It just went from up to down. So when it went down, it just went in a hurry and was down. The front end washed out, slammed me to the ground, and I just wanted to get away from the bike. But I had a little bit of time from where I went down until I got to the rocks, and I thought that was it. I could see them coming, and I thought there's not a chance I'll survive it. There was, in my mind, it was impact zone that was not survivable. Something that you really don't want to have happen. So when I saw that coming, I thought that was it. And I'll never forget the peacefulness of it. I always thought my last words on earth would be some kind of a scream like, ah! And, it wasn't. It was just calm and peaceful. I'll never forget that. It was just like, this is it, and that's that. And I remember I was sad because I was, flashed to the wife. And, I remember thinking, man, it just sucks. It's her birthday. Won't ever see her again. My kids. And then next thing you know, I was tumbling through the rocks, and every time I hit the rock, a new rock, I thought, this is it. My lights will be out. And came to a stop, and instead of lights being out, it was bright as hell. I ripped my shield off. Sunglasses were all gone. So I was staring at the blue skies that were bright. So it went from my darkest time to my brightest time in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit hairy.
Well, and you mentioned your wife, Amy, and everyone knows Amy well and how amazing she is behind the scenes. You know, just how vital is Amy to everything you do?
She's probably the biggest driving force. If it wasn't for her, I would have never got into it to begin with. She pushed me to, try my hand at the competition riding and endurance riding. And then she's allowed me to really get out and work on my craft, to ride, to go do things, always encouraged me. Not to mention the financial end. She's very successful, works her ass off. But without her in my corner, it just couldn't happen. For one, I could never do this at the level I do it if I had a full-time job. And I could never do it without the wife's support. There's so many times that I miss things. I mean, I missed her birthday. I missed my kids going to college. I missed the birthday. So you miss so many things if you don't have somebody in your corner pulling for you and on board 100%. It'll never work. Yeah. So for that, I'm very blessed and very thankful.
Yeah, and that's from everyone who supports you, and I know we all have a lot of gratitude to Amy and everything that she does, because I'm sure Mile Monsters definitely would not be what it is without everything she's done behind the scenes and all the support. And I know, you also have, there's a ton of amazing people in Mile Monsters who support Mile Monsters and help out with things. But tell us maybe a little bit about two individuals like Kimberly and Hop and what they mean to everything that Mile Monsters is.
I tell you, those two are my go-to, and we're kind of I like to get opinions have 3 people, because if you have 2, especially having just 2 guys, like a lot of times Hop and I don't really argue about much of anything, because if he has an idea, I think it's a good idea, but sometimes he'll be like not sure about what direction to go, and having Kimberly on board, Twister, to help us with that is just awesome. So I bounce a lot of stuff off both of them. We're on a group text, so I'll send things, merchandising ideas, things like that. We send it out, and Hopper's a world record rider, just an amazing individual as far as the sport goes. So to have somebody like that in your corner, on your side, on your team, as I started Mile Monsters, I kicked the ball out the door, but they're the ones that, keep that ball trucking down the road. So, Hopper's always doing something, man. He's always got some idea coming out, always bringing an idea by me. What do you think we do this? What do we do that? The Monster Miles was all, his idea to have something to reward riders for riding for us. Yeah. So a great idea, and they're both such good riders. Like, we do epic. That's what we promote. That's what we want. And if you don't have the head of the table doing epic shit, then you're just a lot of talk. And to have Twister on board, and she got in her first Hoka and then was the first lady to cross the finish line. And there's some ladies that compete in the Hoka that are no joke. They're straight beast riders. So to beat all of the ladies in it, and I think Twister, with now a little more experience, is going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I don't care if you're a guy, a girl, whatever. Good luck beating her. Yeah. So that's what I think. So they're awesome. They're 2 of many, but those are the main 2, and 2 that I really respect their opinions.
Yeah, and it's it's been amazing watching both of them and what they're doing. I know that they do give you a lot of feedback and a lot of ideas. Very thankful for them. And then obviously as Mile Monsters grows and as the needs increase and as the rides become more and more epic, which can be easy to do to constantly increase the difficulty of things that were already hard to do, and some people would say impossible to do. But obviously you also have, you know, like I said, the whole community of bikers and riders and supporters. You have some really great sponsors who really step in, whether it's to set up your bike, you know, like Legends or you know, Wild Ass Craig.
Yeah.
You know, you just have so many amazing supporters behind you now. I know that there are going to be a lot of projects that you're probably already contemplating for next year, but for maybe people who are newer to following along with Mile Monsters, anything you should tell them to expect in terms of what to expect when you're kind of becoming part of this community and part of this, you know, biker family that's going out to help kids live their best lives?
Yeah, what we try to do is epic. You know, on my hat right now says be epic. And we have another one that just the riders have, says do epic shit. And that is really our motto, is to be epic, because we're not about going out and trying to get people to sponsor us to do a summer tour. That's not our jam. There's probably people out there that do that, but that's just not us. That's not me, that's not Hop, and that's not Twister. So it just doesn't work like that. So what we try to do is epic, and what I try to let everybody know is that epic is a million different levels. For what is epic for you may not be epic for me. What's epic for me may not be epic for you. So, you know, when I say we do epic things, we do epic adventures, we do epic rides, somebody watching it may look at somebody riding and think, oh, that's nothing. It may be nothing, but it's epic to them. It's an epic ride to them as they get going in this world of long distance riding.
Hazard reported ahead.
It's really a little bit of everything involved. There's people that ride long distances. There's people that ride through crazy things. There's, you know, a lot of it's about endurance riding. So we do long distance riding, you know, try to get the furthest away in the shortest amount of time. So that's typically what you're going to find here.
Awesome. I mean, that's pretty much all the questions I really had, and like you said, I mean, what's epic for one person isn't necessarily epic for another person, and that's one thing I think we need to remember is just kind of relativity, because the first time you got on a bike, you probably didn't go 1,000 miles in a day.
I remember the first time I went 1,000 miles in a day. You know, it took me, I think 19 hours. I got it written down somewhere, but it was like 19 or 20 hours. And man, I thought I was something. I thought, man, I really killed this. And I was in a hurry. I was trying to do 1,000 miles, and I stopped at 1,000 miles and took pictures, and, you know, really celebrated the moment. You know, now, you know, I know 50 people that would get on their bike and ride 1,000 miles and not and nothing, you know, not even think about it. So for me, and it's all relative, you know, like it just, but you know, it's what you're used to. And it's the same way when we deal with our heroes, you know, like what they do is epic varies as well. You know, one of our heroes may be able to do something the other ones can't, or something, but it's all epic to them. If sometimes a hero can walk 10 steps, that is epic shit, and we celebrate that. Others, it may be something totally different.
Hazard reported ahead.
You know, just like the monsters, the heroes have the same thing, different levels of epic, and we just want to celebrate what they do and how they do it. That's about it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you know, I was thinking about that when I was asking the question, and you knew where I was going without me saying anything, because it truly is. You know, so, you know, for one child, getting up and taking a few steps is just a monstrous thing. or for another person, you know, hammering out through therapy when they don't want to do it. That's difficult, or any number of things, you know, just being able to get through each day with a good attitude or go into treatment that isn't fun. You know, those are all things that are immense struggles that a lot of people don't think about, but to them, it's a huge win every single time. So, like I said, that is all the questions I had for this inaugural Moments with a Monster in a Car. And with that,
with that, there won't be very many moments with monsters in a car.
That is true. This might be the very first and the very last episode ever.
There might be many moments with a monster, but it might be at a picnic table or something like that. There just won't be many in a car, especially what we're doing today. We need a car because today is epic, and we're gonna have a good time.
And I'm also not going to be doing this from a motorcycle hanging on behind you. That's also not going to happen.
Yeah, that's true.
That episode will never occur.
And this won't be aired before anybody knows what we're doing anyhow.
Right,
so
exactly.
You might as well tell them what we're doing right now.
So, as everyone knows, Drew has a wheelchair, a nice wheelchair. He hasn't been able to use it. Everyone knows, you know, the Monster 100, which is now 200, is going to raise funds for a new van for Drew, which is amazing. It's, you know, the goal I know Jeff has is get the best van possible that will last the family for a very long time, so that this isn't an issue. And that's amazing for our family, because I don't know what we'll do without it. But where we're going today is Jeff reached out to me out of the blue, and he happened to come across a listing on Facebook for a very used van, but it looks like it's in good enough shape. That's what we're going to check out now. Looks like it's in decent shape, and we're hoping to be able to use that for, you know, several months, kind of as a bridge van, so that Drew can get out as needed until the new van comes through. And that's all thanks to everyone at Mom Monsters, everyone who's riding, everyone who's fundraising, you know. So that's where we're going now. We drove about an hour and a half, 2 hours. We're going to check this van out. Hopefully it checks out.
I hope it checks out. But that was the great thing about the Monster Network, is that a monster up here in Pennsylvania saw this and turned me onto it. So I would have never saw it. The guy never got back to me. He reached out and hit the guy up, and the guy, you know, then he went back and saw my message and actually got back to me. So it just all worked out good. But if it wasn't for the network of monsters, then Scott Volley would have never, if I pronounced that last name right, would have never known to even look for a van. So the network is that's really cool to see that, you know, we have 5,000-6,000 people on our group, and, you know, that's why I'm so adamant about sharing our messages and sharing our videos or whatever, just so people see that, because they knew we needed a van. So, you know, somebody who follows us reached out and said, hey, here's this. Somebody, you know, some kid might need this. I'm like, yeah, you know, Drew might need that right now. So
yeah,
I'm glad. I hope it works out. We're on our way to check it out.
We'll find out.
Either that or we did a long drive and we got to have a moment with a monster in a car for the one and only time. But it was nice. I don't know, I haven't been interviewed in a car before, so I wasn't expecting it either. He just sprung this on me, so we're just rolling. So I appreciate it.
All right, thank you guys. Peace out to everyone.